What Nerdigans? This is the one and only Packer Girl 89, and today's hashtag book Nerdigan discussion video is A Dance with Darkness by Courtney Moulton, or I should say Courtney Allison Moulton. This is the prequel to the Angel Fire series, and it's exclusively only on ebook. So if you have not read A Dance with Darkness, then why the commie anarchists are you here? Seriously, you should read A Dance with Darkness, especially before you read the Angel Fire series by Courtney Moulton. And the cover is beautiful. Look at that cover. Sexy as hell. And this is, of course, my mini Popo. And yes, this is part of this series in general, and as well as this novella is part of my hashtag AngelReadAthon. So, yes, there might be parts of this included in my Ultimate Book Nerdigan rant. We'll see. But anyway, let's get to it. And by the way, this book is also, I should mention this book is also book number 45 of the year. Yes, so far, well, this is the 45th book I've read this year. There we go. So let's do it. So this is a prequel, as I said, this is a prequel to the Angel Fire trilogy, and it takes place in 1391 AD, and it's all from Madeline's point of view, and Madeline is an important character later on in the Angel Fire series, and this is mainly about how she meets Bastian and how they fall in love and how they ends up with the result of having William, who is our main Angel Reaper in the next in the series. So some of the I love the writing. The writing in the series is so good. Some of the quotes is, "I could not allow him to reap any more souls to fill the ranks in hell." Because when a demonic reaper kills somebody and reaps their soul, they go to hell and become part of the ranks. As an angelic reaper, I was this is Madeline was saying, Madeline's point of view, as I said, I was duty bound to kill as many demonic reapers as I could find. I had not felt even a shiver of fear lick up my spine until I heard that name, a name feared by every angelic reaper who valued his life, and I realized the full extent of my luck. And he couldn't be, and it is, Bastian, one of the most powerful reapers in the known world. He was rumored to be in the Far East and far, far away from England. His presence here can mean nothing good for any of us. And Nathaniel's in this book too. And if you've read the Angel Fire series, then you'll know who Nathaniel is. And another quote in here is, "I struggled to peel away the wool of my blood-soaked cloak from my dress and skin. Nathaniel was used to me coming home like this, and he weighed my heels and injuries and tattered clothes without much concern. Such was the life of a demonic reaper hunter. He was just glad I'd come home at all." And Nathaniel, the thing is with being an angelic reaper, it's a really lonely life, especially for Madeline, because Nathaniel is her only friend, and she heals her injuries and everything like that. And this is true to Nathaniel's character, which he says, sometimes he took the business side of our relationship a little too seriously. And Nathaniel says there have been over 2 dozen powerful demonic reapers to arrive at court in the last month. We have to find out why they are here before they outnumber the humans at court. And what about the prelator? And can't we call for her? She's in Africa, and this is what Nate says. I saw Berengar not 2 weeks ago, and he told me she was in Gadames. It would take her and her guardian months of travel by sea and land to get here. We're on our own until then. And she has a new guardian. She does, because her old guardian was killed. And this is what she says, because this is really important. "It was an enormous honor to be chosen by the Archangel Michael to become the guardian of a relic, but the greatest honor was to be the guardian of the prelator, the most powerful creature on earth, and the only one able to wield angel fire. She was reincarnated each time she was killed in battle, but it was her guardian's duty to protect her mortal vessel. The honor was the greatest indeed, but it also came with a very short life expectancy." And this is what Nate says on Bastian. "His presence isn't unexpected. There will be a ball held at Lockmore Castle, and a masquerade ball. Avantia has apparently purchased this castle and is living there. She is rumored to be in charge of the demonic at court. And she was even more, Avantia is more infamous than Bastian. He did her dirty work. And of course she was going to show up. And of course, if Bastian is in London, his mistress would be too. And this is what she says about the balls, because Madeline has, this is what she says. I had attended balls and masquerades before, so I was no stranger to the festivities. I recall the harlequin in Paris, who was an angelic reaper, famous among humans for his fire-breathing and disappearing act. Some reapers had natural abilities that astounded even their own kind. This harlequin would make fire dance in his palms and spread over his entire body until he was drowning in flames, and then he would vanish into the grim as if he had burned up. Moments later, just as the crowd began to panic, he would reappear in a flash of fire, perfectly unharmed and seemingly resurrected. Avanti as masquerade had no fire breathers, no humans, and the only masked reapers prowling the hall were demonic. And she finds Bastian, and I love how Bastian hits on her. Even though Bastian is a prick, I love it, because she runs into him again. And she's like, how do you know who I was? What if I had grabbed someone else and called them suicidal? And he smiled, flashing his bright white teeth. I could tell by your lips and your eyes I could forget neither, she-wolf. I love how he calls her she-wolf. And this was in one of the guest rooms. And Bastian yanked the curtain aside, his eyes captured mine. His mask was gone, revealing the beauty of his face in full. He stared at me, and I stared back. I didn't breathe, didn't speak, didn't attack, and it took a long moment for me to realize he wasn't doing any of those things either. And then a ripple went through him, and any surprise he'd had was replaced with amusement. And because they asked Bastian to look behind the curtains where she was hiding, Madeline was overhearing the meeting. And I love that Bastian's like, not a mouse. Bastian said, a smile grew on his lips. A wolf, an emerald-eyed wolf. And let's get to the next part. So his demonic power lit tiny sparks of fire on my skin and made me shiver as if I were cold. I felt the touch of the demonic during fights, but one had never caressed me before. His touch made me restless, made me want to jump out of my skin. He felt the way a bath did when the water was just a little too hot enough to sting and turn your skin pink, but for some reason the burn felt wonderful. That's what it felt like when Bastian touched me. And then he says, I'd like to call you by what everyone else calls you, his lips pressed to my cheek and a hot fouling sensation seared through my belly, or perhaps I'll name you myself, and your name could be our secret. I would very much like to share a secret with you. Okay, Bastian is hot, okay? Even though he's an asshole, he is freaking hot. And the way that Courtney wrote him like this, it's just like, damn, I would totally bang Bastian. I'm sorry, I would. And then she said, Madeline said, you lied to your friends. You could have alerted them to my presence and they'd have killed me. And then okay, Susan E., this is how you write a love scene. He kissed my throat and brushed his lips against my skin as he spoke. They most certainly would have. You saved my life. Isn't that our secret? That's what Madeline said. And then one side of his mouth pulled into a tempting smile. That is our first secret. And then Madeline's like, I almost laughed, but I knew we had to be quiet. You want more secrets with me? And then he said, I want 1,000. He lifted a hand, slipped my mask over my head, and paused to look at me before tossing the mask behind him. His fingers toyed with thread woven through my dark hair, untied knots and removed ribbons. My hair fell around my shoulders and was free. He dropped my hood and net to the ground. My entire body trembled, and I was undone. Like, seriously, my commune Arceus, if I was Madeline, I would have done the same thing, because, seriously, demons know what they're doing, especially with that kiss. Oh my commune Arceus, that kiss was so hot. I love this writing, I really do. I will be quoting this series a lot, because the writing in here is amazing. His eyes were blue fire, like twin stars burning into mine. He was beautiful in the moonlight. Madeline, my name slowly rolled off his tongue just before his lips met mine. His lips was hard and scorching, overflowing with a predatory hunger that made my lips at his mercy. He was all over me like wildfire, his hands cupping my face, fingers threading through my unbound hair, closing around the silk of my dress and tugging me closer to him. He could not be satisfied by kisses, and neither could I. He broke from my lips, and I felt his teeth graze my jaw before he buried his face in my hair and breathed deep. I turned my face to his, questioning for his lips again, and he greeted me ferociously as his hands tightened on my body. Like, this is hot. This is what I'm talking about. I love this shit. And it keeps going. I shit you not. I bit my lip and whirled out from behind the curtain, tearing myself away from him. He followed me and thrashed the curtain out of his path. I stopped in the middle of the room, begging myself to run for the door, but my feet had rooted to the ground. My mind was screaming at me, but I couldn't go. I didn't want to. I needed to know him, to understand him. I needed to be with him, but this was Bastien. Bastien, for God's sake. A demonic reaper with one hell of a reputation for mayhem. He would kill me as quickly as he would kiss me. And, like, that is hot. I'm sorry. It is, woo, it's hot. Female nerdigans, please tell me that that is not hot. And guys, you should freaking do that too. Damn it, come on. Stupid thing. And then I love that the next morning, Bastien's like, well, we slept in a random guest room. And I was like, oh, okay. And this is what it says. And this is what he says. His eyes did not open as he huffed, and a cat-like grin spread across his lips. I had to force myself not to kiss those lips again. Mine were so swollen still that they ached. I don't know whose room this is, he replied, but we put it to excellent use. Yeah, you did, Bastien. I hope the rightful occupant doesn't return anytime soon. And Bastien says, don't worry, he said dismissively, opening his eyes to gaze at me. This is a guest room. If Antia wouldn't have had us meet someplace we would be interrupted or overheard, yet that's precisely what happened, unbeknownst to her. And he says, well, I see you again. And I love Madeline. She's such a smart ass. She's like, haven't you seen enough of me? And then Bastien, his own smile grew dark and slight. What if there's a spot I miss? Okay, I would want round 2 right then and then. Right there and then. I swallowed and forced myself to be honest with him. I'm not too proud to admit anything, but I'm afraid of what it would mean if I did like you. Because of what we are, he said at last, serious, and how we are different. Yes, I replied. Yes, Madeline replied. This is very, very much against any and all rules, conduct, and entitlement, or not entitlement, engagement in battle. No, I don't suppose it's considered prudent to make love to your enemies. It isn't, but it just happened. I bit my lip and smiled down at him. My hair spilled over my shoulders, brushing his skin, and I touched his face. I will stay until dawn because you wish it, I told him, and because I want to. Because if it would have ended because you wish it, I would have been like, no, you have to stay because I want to. You know you want to, Madeline, and she did say that. He pulled me down him and kissed him, then I lost myself in him for the second time that night, knowing it would not be the last. And then I'm just like, I love this love scene. This was Courtney. That was a good love scene. And then she said, and then Madeline says, I saw Bastien on and off for more than a fortnight in secret, and those weeks were a whirlwind. He was my paramour, and our clandestine meetings gave me a heart-pounding thrill that I'd ever known during battle. I was wholly taken over by him. I needed to be with him always, and when I wasn't, I felt incomplete. It wasn't enough anymore for me to fight my enemies every night. I needed the thrill of sneaking away to see Bastien. No one could know. I couldn't even tell Nathaniel about my happiness, and I didn't want to think of his inevitable disappointment in me. And when she goes to Bastien's manor, Bastien has this huge library, and I love that. I love when characters are into books, like Nathan is, and Bastien is a huge book nerd again, and same with Madeline. And she asks, well, Bastien's favorite son is Dante. It's because he has the books of Dante, and it's Así son alma present a gentle core, because it's true. And Madeline says, as I watched Bastien, I thought of the author of those poems, Dante weeping over Beatrice, the muse and love he lost before he ever even held her. I wondered why this poem would be one to strike Bastien so. And I'm just like thinking, well, it's kind of, I like how Bastien thinks this way, because everything he loves dearly, he loses. He does. And I love that the new nickname is for Madeline, a new nickname to the list is My Love. I was like, oh, that is so cute. And then Caden comes in, and I'm a Team Caden person, and you'll understand why in the Angel Fire series. Caden comes in at that moment, hashtag party crasher, and he's Bastien's son, and it's a total awkward turtle when he meets Madeline. And there's a good point for Caden on why he didn't attack Madeline, and his contempt began to show again. Well, you are the only angelic that has ever said hello and not tried to put a sword through my chest, which is really true. And it goes to show you, and I love when this theme comes up in series, is that there's never a good and evil. There's always this gray area. That you don't have to be absolutely good and absolutely evil. And that's why I'm glad I started off with the Embrace series, because that was the main theme of that series, was finding that gray area. And then Madeline says, well, I was doing a century my entire life. I never stayed... Oh, no, this is Kaden. I'm sorry. Or was this Kaden or was it Madeline? No, this is Madeline. I'm sorry. I almost fucking misquoted. I was nearing a century in my age, so Madeline was doing a century. For my entire lifetime. For my entire life, I've never stayed in one location for too long. I got restless, as I did when I stayed with Bastian. I enjoyed being around him, but I was free to come and go as I pleased, and I took full advantage of that right. So, yeah, if I were Madeline, I would do that too, but I would want to stay with Bastian as much as possible. And then we see how we see Bastian's asshole side here. Perhaps I should punish you for yours as well. The malice in Bastian's tone made me much more certain of his conviction that I was of Caden's. I can't believe you let them give the book to a relic guardian. You have no idea how powerful they are, or how hard they are to kill. He stared at me, and I did not balk beneath his gaze. He knew that he may have fooled Bastian, but he didn't fool me. Bastian was too arrogant to even consider that his subordinates, those I was growing to understand he intentionally made to fear him, would lie to him. He was that confident and that proud. And Bastian beamed with so much satisfaction that my stomach turned. You don't understand our ways, Maddie. The only way to make them follow me is to make them fear me. And I was thinking to myself, seriously, let Nathaniel beat Bastian up, please. I know he couldn't do it, but seriously, let Nate beat him up. And Bastian got the blade of Belial. And see? I told you fuckers. I'm sorry. I told you nerdigans, not fuckers. I told you nerdigans, Belial was coming back. And Belial is going to come back in another series as well. And yes, he is still a demon. Belial is still, in this series, Belial is a demon. And same with, when we get to the, what is it? Sweet Evil series. Belial, you'll see Belial as well. This is not small. I've been searching for this demonic relic for 200 years. Its greatest purpose will not be fulfilled for a very long time, but now I'm going to kill Avantia with it. Like, when he said that, I was like, holy shit, I didn't expect that. And then he says, I'm more powerful than Avantia, but she doesn't know this. I've had long further ambitions. When I kill her, I will assume control of England and every demonic reaper within 1,000 miles. And then he talks about Antares, who was the Western Cardinal Lord and one of the 4 lords of all the Gregory angels, imprisoned on Earth for rebelling against heaven, and left here for so long they became elemental. And she is Bastian's grandmother, which is insane. So he has some angelic reaper in him. I fell silent, and Madeline fell silent considering this. A reaper's demonic or angelic heritage was determined by his mother's side. But if Bastian's grandmother truly was the Watcher of the West, it meant his father had to be angelic. His closeness to Antares' bloodline explained how he was so powerful, and the angelic reaper were the offspring of the Gregory angels, while the demonic reapers were the offspring of the fallen angels imprisoned in hell. In the rebellion against heaven, the truly wicked followers of Lucifer became fallen, but the Gregory could be redeemed, and instead of being sent to hell, they were chained to earth in punishment for their crimes. And when we get to the Shadows in the Silence, I'm going to explain why there needs to be another installment to the series, because there really does. The way it ended needs another installment. When Angelic found out about me, Bastian continued, they killed my father. He let them kill him. A son of Antares, he was a most ancient creature, already thousands of years old when I was young. He could have annihilated his persecutors, but he refused to kill his own kind, even to defend himself in his selflessness. He left my mother unprotected. They killed her too, because he loved her, because she was demonic. Never again to this day, 400 years later, have I felt even a pale shadow of the fury that had ignited in my heart. I had inherited my father's strength, but none of his selflessness. I killed all who were responsible. I am death. And no one knows, Bastian continued, but I fear Avantia is suspicious. She was alive when it happened, and she may have heard rumors. No one can ever know that I am half angelic. You are the only one alive who knows. I killed the rest. Caden doesn't even know, and Caden is Bastian's son. And we'll learn later in the series, we'll learn more about Caden's mother. Madeline says Alberon is her grandfather, which is, so she is descended from the one of the Gregory Lords, which, if you think about it, it explains why Will is extremely powerful, and you'll see later on. And Bastian is a demon with white wings, which is, the irony is there. I swear to Kami Arceus, the irony is there. I cannot, and this is what he said, I cannot involve you in this. He roared, his anger sending his power spiking. Already you are in danger by being in our presence. Evantia knows about you. I didn't tell you that she has confronted me about it already. You are the only one who would be in danger, he snarled. Evantia has branded me a traitor. Everything is about to be ruined if she decides to speak out. Uh-oh. Seriously. That's crazy. And Caden talks about the grimoire of Antares. And Bastian, because that's the book he's after. And Bastian, Madeline said more harshly to get his attention, is it worth killing your only son? He did not look at me and spoke without hesitation. It is worth everything. The demonic did not rise in rank through sweetness, generosity, and attentiveness. Tonight he killed an angelic relic guardian, perhaps someone I knew, for the book written by Antares. I was a blind fool. Caden says that he has never reaped a soul in his life, which you wouldn't think. Caden is amazing. I love Caden. I would make Caden my man. I'm serious. I'm super serial here. The book was written by Antares that was said to contain all known angelic magic. One could do anything if in possession of this grimoire. If a spell existed, Antares had scrawled it on those ancient pages. The prelator, Bastian said, I've discovered a way to destroy her soul for good so she can no longer be reincarnated. And Madeline said, Bastian, no, she moaned, feeling my heart break. If you destroy her, then the demonic will devour the human race. Why would you wish that? And she said she's only protecting demon souls. She's only not protecting demon souls. She's only protecting human souls, Madeline cried. When the demonic takes souls, they're sent to hell, even the righteous and pure. That is a terrible, horrible thing that can't be allowed to happen. Don't you understand that? You can't. The back of his hand struck Madeline's jaw so hard and so suddenly that she hit the floor, cracking her knees. She cried out in agony, but clamped her mouth shut in fear when he knelt over me and his hot breath blasted in my ear. And then Bastian snarled, "Do not tell me what I can and can't do." And Bastian did not trust me, and I no longer trusted him. He wanted to use Antares' grimoire to destroy the prelator, and I never could let him. Wait, where am I? Could let him do that. He was right that I killed the demonic and could not condemn him for killing the angelic, and I could not sit idly by while he killed our last hope to protect humanity. Madeline did not want him to be her enemy, but if he made him so, then she had no choice. And what Madeline did was she grabbed the satchel containing the grimoire and clutched it to her chest, and she fled, spreading her wings in the night air, and left the manor as quickly as she could. Nathaniel examined the worn cover, running his fingers over the pressed seal written in Inashian, the language of the divine. Perhaps it was because, this is what Madeline says, or Madeline is thinking, excuse me. Perhaps it was because I was ashamed of myself for falling for Bastian. He and I were over. I could not forgive him for what he did and why he did it. This was bigger than some angelic and demonic spat in London. Destroying the prelator was dragging heaven into the equation. I had loved him so much, so hard that my heart had not simply been broken. It had been shattered so completely, and I hadn't even realized it been made of glass. I spent my entire life, 100 years, erecting an iron cage around my heart, and I hadn't bothered to strengthen the heart I tried to protect. Now I was entirely unraveled from within. And I love how Courtney wrote this about her heart being broken. I thought that was fantastic. He pushed my hair away from my face, Nathaniel did, and leaned over me as his arm around my waist tugged me closer to him. I didn't shy away when he kissed me. It was a soft brush of his lips on mine, but the kiss grew quickly into something more desperate and passionate as his fingers threaded through my hair. I wrapped a hand around the back of his neck and pulled him down to me. I'd known him for my entire life, but he felt so new and different, yet so familiar. And I love, this is why I totally recommend dating your friends, dating your guy friends, starting out as friends first. Like home. He felt like home. He'd always been there for me, even when I didn't return for weeks or months. He always left the door open for me and welcomed me back with a smile. I wondered how long he'd been in love with me, and suddenly I was sick with shame. Even if I wanted to open my heart to him, I couldn't. It was unfair of me to use him to take my mind off of things I wanted so desperately to run away from. And I feel bad, because if she would have kissed Nathaniel first, then none of this shit would have happened with Bastian. But on the bright side, it's a good thing that it happened with Bastian, because she was able to get the grimoire from Bastian. And this is what Nathaniel says. I'll write a copy to keep for myself. If the relic guardian was killed recently, then the Archangel Michael will need a replacement. He's the one in charge of choosing the guardians. The decision is not for me to make. And then all night I felt so ill. This is Madeline again. I felt so ill that my head ached, and when I woke I was sick again. Nathaniel was gone and I didn't know where. I heard him just leave before dawn, probably to handle the responsibility of the grimoire and to gather supplies to make his copy. But deep down inside, I feared it was because I'd hurt him. He had kissed me and I'd kissed him back in my moment of weakness, but I hadn't reciprocated the feelings that had come with his kiss. In the end, remaining a platonic relationship was for the better for both of us, which I understand where she's coming from. I do. And now we're going to find out the good news, or maybe it's the bad news. The midday sun was high, and through the autumn air was though the autumn air was ice cold. My nausea hadn't subsided. Reapers did not just fall ill, and a new fear hovered in the back of my mind, pressing against my iron will, not even to consider it. I couldn't be pregnant. I couldn't allow it. I didn't know any angelic doctors, but I knew a nurse named Constance who had saved a battlemate of mine from a wound. He may not have survived on his own. I entered the grim outside and leaped into the air to head for London. When I recalled where I recalled the nurse lived. At this time of day, I was certain I wasn't likely to be followed by any demonic, but the grim safely concealed my existence from humans. Constance operated out of a small hovel in one of the poorer sides of London. The smell of garbage and human waste masked the scent of angelic reaper blood, so she could work with it without attracting the demonic. Well, that's pretty smart if you think about it. I knocked and a reaper opened the door to greet me with her pearly pink gaze and blonde hair, and Constance's smile was wide and beaming. "You're going to be a mother." It was so rare for our kind to conceive, the nurse said sadly, and then smiled. The angels must have wanted you to have a child very much, particularly Gabriel. She is the angel who watches over mothers and their children. Perhaps she believes your child is destined for greatness. And my palm, and this is back to Madeline, my palm moved over to cover my belly. Destined for greatness? How far along am I? And the nurse says, Constance says, several weeks, I'd say. If everything goes well, you'll give birth in the spring. And then whatever happened to make you so afraid right now, or whatever will happen once this baby arrives, the nurse said, remember, this is a gift. Many of our kind lived hundreds of years without bearing a child. Many never at all in their long lives. And then Madeline says, I was with Bastian's child, a child who would be born of both angelic and demonic, like his father. And Bastian is at Nathaniel's house waiting for him. Holy shit. And what he said is, I've known for over a month, Bastian said, I'm saddened where she was staying at. That I'm saddened that you never trusted me enough to tell me where you lived after I invited you to my home. It was your home, too. And he took my hand and brought it to his lips. I've come too far with you to let you go. I slipped my hand from his grip and held it close to my chest. You hit me, Bastian. You struck me out of anger after you murdered my kin for something you will use to destroy the rest of my kin. Do not insult me by begging for my forgiveness. It is over between us, and that book is long gone. If you want it, you can dig out its ashes in the earth. So go, Madeline, because if that's where I would have drawn the line with Bastian too. If he motherfucking slapped me and it wasn't in a sexual way, because they're spanking, that's different. And despite my callous comment, nothing in his face changed. I expected him to get angry, but he didn't. Ivantia is dead. I killed her after I saw you last night. I'm now the most powerful demonic reaper in England. And even if he didn't kill me, Madeline, he would never let me go. I could not fight him because I could not risk my the life growing inside me. Bastian would take his child and raise him or her the way he raised Caden, through brutality and cruelty. Unlike poor Caden, my child would grow up knowing kindness and a gentle touch. My child would know what real love was like. We have to, and then Nathaniel came back and she said, we have to leave. Our location has been compromised by the demonic. Yeah. And she said, I pushed myself to my feet and started to pace. Yes, they know about this house, and I took the grimoire. You can't stay in London anymore, and I have to hide, and I have to leave. I have to hide, and if you came with me, I would be grateful. I need you to come with me, but if you choose not to, I won't hold it against you. And yes, you can promise me, Nathaniel, promise me you will never ask me who the father is, because she told him she was pregnant. My voice is distant, seemed to belong to someone else. I should go to North Scotland. There are many remote villages in the Highlands. Maybe we should go to one of the Isles. Nathaniel exhaled and put a hand on my shoulder. He gave me a gentle squeeze. Sky is beautiful. Every child should grow up in such a magical place. So the Isle of Skye it is. And that's where it ends, and then it goes into the epilogue. And the epilogue I really like too, so I'm going to give you that too. Give you a little bit of that as well. I began to sing as, to my son as I gazed into his sweet face, into the innocent whimsy brightened his green eyes. He melted in my arms, and his little white wings folded at his back, the downy feathers brushing my skin, his white wings that were just like Bastian's. So I'm curious, because I don't think we got a description of what her wings were like, Madeline's wings were like, but I just think it's ironic that it comes from the demonic side that he has white wings. I think that's weird. I don't know what you guys think. He had demonic blood running through his veins like his father, but he was angelic through and through. With each day I could see a little more Bastian in his features, but his heart, I prayed, would be like mine, as were his eyes. William could never know his father, and that was a tragedy. If their paths were ever to cross years or centuries from now, they would be strangers or possibly even enemies. Nathaniel was as close to his father as Will could ever have. And this goes to prove a point that as long as there's a male figure in the household, that the son can learn how to be a man, which is nice. He tried to, but he was careful not to be fatherly. He tried to assume the role of a big brother more than anything because that was safe where I was involved. It put no pressure on me. He was in love with me. I knew this now, but even after 5 years, I was not ready to open my heart to anyone, even to someone so close to it, even to someone who helped raise my child by another man. The only love in my life now was my son, and I loved him more than I could ever love anything. He was my world. And the thing is, I have to say this too about Madeline. I like that she did it this way, where she made sure that Nathan was more of a brother than a father figure, because otherwise it would have gotten awkward. And he doesn't call William doesn't call Nathaniel dad. He just calls him Nathaniel. Soon I would teach Will what I knew so he can learn to protect himself. Already I could feel his, oh wait a minute. Here we go. Still, I missed Nathaniel. He had finished copying Antoine's grimoire and now searched for a way to summon the Archangel Michael so that the book could be passed to a proper relic guardian. Nathaniel didn't want that responsibility. He was strong, but he wasn't built to fight as I was, and he didn't live for it the way I did. Soon I would teach Will and what I knew so that he could learn to protect himself. Already I could feel his power flare sometimes when he was happy or throwing a baby tantrum. He would have immense power one day when he was grown. It was guaranteed I had great power for a young reaper, and Bastian's strength was terrifying. Will had Gregory lords close to him on both sides of his family tree, Andres and Alberon. Constance had told me that Gabriel must have known a child between Bastian and me would have a great future, but everyone's definition of great varied. I thought of Bastian and prayed he would never get his hands on the grimoire or Nathaniel's copy. He had Belial's dagger, and I feared the dark purpose he had in store for it, which was likely related to what he'd intended to use the power of the grimoire for, an ingredient to his spell he needed that was contained within those ancient pages. Inevitably, dark days were coming. And that's how this book, ebook ends. And I really liked it. I liked that we got some insight into what's to come. And I will say this, that I read A Dance with Darkness before, after I finished the trilogy, because that's when I found out about the novella. But I'm glad I did it this way, where I started off with A Dance of Darkness and went through the series this way, because everything makes more sense. So I want to know what you Nerdigans thought about this book. Do you guys like the writing? Do you guys like the romance? Do you like how there's that development of the gray area theme? And what do you think about the fact that it's always through the mother side that determines if you're an angel or a demonic reaper? But anyway, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and please donate to my Patreon. The link is in the description below. And I will be seeing you, Book Nerdigans, in the next Book Nerdigan discussion video, which is Angel Fire by Courtney Moulton. Until next time, Nerdigans, I will be seeing you later. Bye!